All right. Hello and welcome to the second episode of Movies with Drew. Today we have a very special guest. The guest is my dad, Joe Stinnett. Hey, how's it going, Dad?
How y'all doing?
So, Dad, I don't know if you know this or not, but you were sort of the inspiration for doing this because when you did a podcast, who was that podcast you did? Some
Oh,
Lynchburg dude.
Lynchburg, Billy Hanson. I'm not sure what his last name. I can't remember his last name right now.
Whatever that podcast was, it was really cool, and it made me think like, oh, it's neat hearing my dad talk about like all these different things that never really like super heard. We never really heard that in-depth stuff before because you don't really talk about work stuff at home. So I just thought it was very interesting. So I thought this would be a good excuse to talk to people about, well, mainly movies, but other things too. But just want to say thank you for that, and thank you for coming on episode 2. So we're going to talk about Under the Shadow, which neither of us had actually seen until this week. It is on Netflix, came out in 2016. It is probably the highest rated movie that we will ever do on this show, with 99% on Rotten Tomatoes. It was directed by a dude named Babak Anvari, and this was his first movie. I was sort of surprised this was his first movie because it was
Very interesting.
Yeah, it was like very well polished. Like it didn't seem like a first movie that somebody would have made.
I thought it was good too. I had no idea it was his first movie, especially the scary parts of it were really well done.
Yes, absolutely. It was really weird. Like I got a lot of weird chills through it. Like especially towards the end, which we'll talk about. But sort of the summary is that it's mainly centered around an Iranian family from, where were they, in like Tehran or something?
Yeah, they were in Tehran during the Iran-Iraq War in the 80s, I believe.
So that part was interesting to me because I never really knew any. They called it the Cultural Revolution, which sounded like maybe it was the Cultural De-Revolution. So that was where the Iranians, like, they kicked out all the Western stuff from their colleges.
I believe, yeah, and I think that was around the time or right after they got rid of the Shah of Iran. He was like their leader. They were a kingdom, basically. He was like and Iran was Persia, so he was like the king of Persia, sort of, although it wasn't Persia.
Interesting.
But yeah, they overthrew him, and the Ayatollah Khomeini, the first Ayatollah, took over.
So was the old guy, then he wanted things more Western and they kicked him out because they didn't want things to be Westernized?
Yes, it was. I think that was among the earlier parts of the Muslim. I don't know if Muslim revolution or whatever happened in the Mideast and all these autocracies. Well, not all of them, not Saudi Arabia, but in Iran anyway. There was a religious revolution, and they turned it from a secular government into a religious government run by the Ayatollah.
So that makes for a pretty good like horror background, I guess. I really liked, so at the beginning, the mom, who was apparently like a very Western college student, had been protesting, and then sort of the thing that kicks this all off is she's trying to get back into college to be a doctor, and the college administration is like, no, because you were so active politically. Hey, Mr. Flipperdo, how are you doing? Because you were so active politically, we're not going to let you into college, and you can't be a doctor, so go at home and stay in the kitchen.
I thought that part of it was interesting. I like the Western. I should know more about Iran, but I sort of pictured it as more Eastern or Oriental or Arabic. I mean, I know they're not like living in tents or something, but it was extremely, I told Ellen, that was an extremely Western type apartment. You wouldn't have really known it was anywhere other than New York or somewhere. And they had a awesome, I thought it was a Sony, but a Sanyo video player, which
oh yeah,
in the film too.
That was great. Like it had the tape that came off up through the top, the ejecting thing. Like that's how you know it's like old.
too.
Yes. And I liked how she was watching like bootleg Jane Fonda videos on there.
I know. I thought that kind of added to the Western part of it because she seemed so sort of not retiring, but really kind of gloomy and bad because she couldn't get into medical school. And then she starts doing that Jane Fonda stuff, and she's like really good.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Was Jane Fonda like? Did y'all have Jane Fonda tapes or anything at the time? Was it really that big?
Oh yeah, it was gigantic. It was like this was pre-internet. Yeah, they were huge. She was like known for those exercise things for like 5 years or so. That was post Vietnam and movies, and before she became like a star again. Yeah, those workout videos were like really big. They were advertised on TV. Yeah, they were definitely a thing.
That's awesome. I remember Mouser Size as a kid, but I don't remember the I
Yeah.
don't remember the Jane Fonda ones. So pretty much the plot is she's mainly stuck in this apartment building with her daughter, and they're being bombed by the Iraqis, and a bomb comes through like the ceiling of the apartment building, or a missile, I guess.
That shocked the heck out of me. I'm like, what's going on? I'm like, okay, they're getting bombed. It's bad. Holy crap, there's a giant missile that came through the ceiling.
Yeah, yeah, that was great. And when they all like, I mean, they seem like it's no big deal. And when you see that missile there, and then like there's an old dude that died like right next to it, it was very like jarring just to see it. And it was like it was very weird imagery.
It was. I thought that was very strange. And then I don't know if you noticed, when they removed the missile, they had a crane, which reminded me of the crane they hung Brody from in Homeland.
That's a good point. Yes,
To that or not.
that is a good. I wonder if there was like some sort of like execution imagery going on there.
Not executing anybody today, so we can run down to their street and pull this missile out of the ceiling.
Yes, yes. So, did you think was the missile was it supposed to blow the building up and it just didn't detonate, or do those things just like wreck through?
Yeah, I think that's what it was. It didn't go off. I think that I've supposedly the Iraqi munitions are not all that reliable, so I don't think it's totally unheard of. And I think that happened occasionally in World War II and stuff. A missile would not go off and would get like a B-2 or something would get stuck in a house.
That's scary. That makes it even a little bit more scary because like another imagery bit that I liked was the ceiling, how it hit above her ceiling and her ceiling was just cracked, and she's just trying to like put tape over top of the cracks in the ceiling.
I thought they did well. I guess we'll get to the ceiling and what was going on with the ceiling. But I thought the way he handled the ceiling stuff was really good. And I think sometimes they were just running the film backwards. But the special effects were really good, even though they were very simple.
Yes, yes, exactly. So sort of, I guess the main part of this movie was where at some point the apartment building gets haunted by they call it you watch it with the subtitles too, right?
Yes, addition. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it or not.
Yes, I think it's pronounced Jin. I think the D is silent. I think it's just pronounced Jin, like genie.
Oh, good, right. I
Uh,
knew that. I was just, checking out the host's cultural.
the only reason I've heard of that word is that who was it? Toby Hooper did one of his last movies was called Jin,
Okay.
and it was about some sort of monster genie. So if it hadn't been for that, I would know nothing about him. And also Aladdin with Robin Williams.
Yeah, I'd heard that's about my extent of my knowledge. I'd heard they were some sort of Iranian or Eastern, you know, spirit or monster or something.
Yeah, yeah. And it was I sort of like this that they never really like define what it is or what it's doing. So it's sort of haunting them, but it also seems to be maybe protecting the little girl.
Oh no, I didn't get the protection part. That's interesting because I thought it was interesting, and to me, it made it almost more scary because it was kind of undefined. It would sort of manifest itself in different ways, and I thought it was kind of the that whole thing was kind of like a metaphor for her fear, I think. So she was so consumed with fear of getting blown up, fear of something happening to her husband, fear of
Uh-huh.
something happening to the kid, fear of something happening to her, but she still wouldn't move for whatever reason. They wouldn't leave.
Interesting.
And anyway, because at first I'm like, is she imagining this? But I mean, it was real.
Yeah.
I mean, was intended to be. This is actually a thing. It's not like all in her head.
Yeah, yeah. I really liked when it was sort of when you didn't really know if it was in her head or not.
Right, right.
And then
Yeah.
towards the end, like it's obvious that okay, it is a real thing. Like, or I mean,
Well,
I'm pretty sure it was a real thing.
right. When she saw that creepy guy too, that old man a couple times, that really scared me.
Yes.
And I thought that was pretty because you never really saw him very much. And I ran the recording back a couple times, and you can definitely, I think you can see him going up through that hole in the ceiling when it closes up. It looks like his feet scoot up in there, and
Yeah,
that
that
was
part was
chills. That was scary.
yeah, when he's like it's almost like he's barely in frame and then he just sort of like zips up into
Right,
that crack
right,
where the missile used to be and it
right.
was just like ugh.
And he reminded me of you watch Twin Peaks.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He reminded me of that weird guy who was in that other dimension or something right at
Bob.
the end of that. Like Bob, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I
Yeah.
like Bob.
Yeah. Yeah. Who apparently was just like he was just like a janitor on set and David Lynch saw him and was like, ooh,
Oh,
that dude's creepy. We gotta use him. I remember that was I think that was one of my earliest memories of Twin Peaks is when y'all were watching it and at some point he like levitates up from a ceiling or something or from behind a couch and I was just like holy crap what is on TV like that is terrifying. uh, yeah, I like that. I really liked I wasn't a huge fan of like the very end but I really liked I would say up until the very end like
Trying to remember what happened in the very end.
so I got super creeped out when they're trying to get out of the apartment like the mom like they find the toy and she's finally like okay let's go and like
Right,
the kid goes to get her coat and then you're not sure if it's the kid or not and it's just like I
right.
I can't remember if it was the genie that was leading her down and then the kid is screaming upstairs or it's the genie screaming and it actually is the kid downstairs.
Right, and is that when the mom had to pull the kid out from under the bed, but it wasn't the
Oh,
kid, it was the other thing, and then it goes,
yeah.
and
Yes, like it looked like chattering teeth or something
yeah,
underneath the
right, like
blanket.
shark teeth or something. I just
Yeah,
wasn't expecting it.
yes, yes, that was really because that was really one of the only times you see it as like a monster. It's usually just like
Yeah,
a person out of frame, and this was like
yeah,
evil
right.
thing under the bed dragging you to who knows where. Um,
Well,
when when they're down in the like bomb shelter basement and everything starts turning into tar, I didn't really like that. That was sort of like I feel like they could have done without. I don't know. It was like tar quicksand. I don't know if that was supposed to be like an analogy for the oil of Iran or what, but
think of that. Maybe so. Maybe oil was a sort. I didn't think of that either. It didn't bother me, but I see what you mean now. Thinking about it, it was kind of like, okay, well, we've had all this stuff, so here's an extra little bit of you think she's going to get away, but she's stuck in tar or goo or
yeah,
gray thing, but she does get away. So kind
yeah,
of what's the point of all that? That's a good, yeah,
yeah.
that's a good point.
And it still looked good. Like it was really good special effects and like I don't know how I'm really amazed they could do that that good a job on this dude's like first directing thing, but it was really cool.
It was good, and I liked how the going back to we were talking about the missile.
Hmm.
Missile knocked that big hole in the ceiling, so those guys go up there and like, hey, okay, we got a big tarp, we'll just lay that over the hole. I'm like, well, that ain't gonna work out very good for
Yeah,
them. And
yeah.
it doesn't rain, but it's always windy, and these jinns apparently travel on the wind. Somebody said.
Okay.
She goes in there and looks at that thing. It's all rippling, and then the jinn appears as that, which I thought was kind of like cool on your standard ghost story. It looked like a sheet,
Yeah, yeah,
with pictures of ghosts on it or something. I don't know, or Pac-Man or something. It was just some like weird sheet he got at the Walmart in
yep,
Tehran or something. But he made it really scary. And then when the jinn, I guess, was wearing it, it looked like a hijab because it was partly covering her face. So it looked, I don't know, that
yeah,
that was all great. And it was over. I'm like, well, they just had somebody like with a sheet waving around and blowing wind, and it was
yeah,
really scary.
yeah. And,
because I guess, like you said, you would kind of see it and then it would disappear and then it would pop in, and
yeah, yeah.
yeah, that was all good.
And that's a good point about the tarp too, because it's always like there's an actual tarp like right up there, always blowing around, and it's
Right. There's always some kind of wind. Yeah.
so one theory. I think I heard this on a podcast that I had not I hadn't thought of. I didn't realize I'd listened to a podcast about this till after watching it. But what they were saying is they put out there that the missile actually contained the jinn, and it was like shot by Iraq as like a
Uh,
psychological weapon. So I
like they
wanted to hear
like
what you thought about that.
okay, Mr. Jin, hop on this missile. We're gonna.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
yeah,
interesting. I think they mentioned something in the movie. Didn't one of those old ladies who was like hanging around? I wasn't quite clear who that was, or the one was that the landlord's wife, the
yeah,
one or the kids.
yeah.
Didn't she say somebody said, "Oh yeah, it's real," and that it came on that missile or something?
Okay, okay.
Because I'm like, I hadn't noticed that either. I'm like, oh well, okay, that's kind of cool. It came in the missile, and they're scared of the missile, and that's fear
Yeah.
and all that.
I thought they were trying to set it up so that like that weird kid maybe brought the gin with him. Like,
I thought maybe he was the Jinn. Who? Yeah, what was going? His eyes were really weird several times, but I didn't quite get. It's like, oh, there's that weird kid. He's staring again.
yeah, and even like the landlord. I think he was staying with the landlord, and they were like, "Yeah, he's really weird. he's really creeping us out."
He doesn't speak. He just stares.
Yes, yes,
Oh, but I guess the kid, there was a little girl talking to him. Was that the whole? Of course, it had a doll, a scary doll. You
yeah,
got to have a scary doll. That was.
yeah. And like it seemed like he was talking to her a bunch, and then like even when he got in the car with him, he whispered some then, and it was like that kid seems to talk a lot for like somebody that's supposed to be mute.
Right.
But
And
that
then
was
they
good.
had. I couldn't figure. The doll was kind of cool. Um, and the little kid was freaking out because whatever the doll's name was, she couldn't find the doll. Can't find the doll. Well,
Yeah,
then at the last minute, the mother goes on a like all points nutso search. Like, why didn't you do that before?
yeah.
I didn't quite get that.
Yeah, well, she was like ransacking everything and just throwing junk on the floor and going through everything. And I was like until now, like you wanted to stay here. Like why? Went from I want to just stay here forever to okay, let's just get this doll and go. We'll find it from wherever.
Right. And was that when they found the doll all busted up into pieces?
I think it was in one. So that was one part that I didn't understand because I think when they found it, it was all together. But by the time they left, the head was on the stairs. So I didn't get. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't in pieces when they found it, but that part was sort of weird.
And that was in the same drawer with her medical book. Because
Yes.
at the very end of it, they showed the pages, the wind kind of riffling the pages of the medical book, which was kind of neat,
Yeah.
whatever. Seemed like a good ending.
I thought maybe like the medical book had disappeared out of there and the doll had been replaced with it.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought too. And then maybe that's how was the medical book upstairs on the roof or something?
Yeah, because I think you could see it through the hole, or it was on the floor between them. I think.
Okay, right.
Yeah, that was weird though.
Okay.
So one of the questions I was going to ask you, talking about the doll, is when we were growing up, me and Patrick and you and Mom, and the house was getting bombed. Would there be any toys that you could say we would have to find before leaving? Like, would anything keep us in the house while the town is being nuked by a foreign power?
Let's see, the Game Boy, the PS2, the Nintendo.
Are there any toys that wouldn't have kept us in that we wouldn't have wanted to leave?
Anything you couldn't plug in.
That,
Stuffed animals. Y'all were attached to stuffed animals.
all right.
So there could have been some stuffed animal.
Okay. So plenty. Because that was the part I was thinking. I was like, just leave that thing. Who cares? But
Right. Yeah.
so other question. My next pre-can question is, since this was sort of a weird move, the setting on this was, I wouldn't say weird, but it was like pretty unique. Are there
Right.
any unique war settings that you would want to make a horror movie in?
Any unique war setting?
Yeah. So like I think there's plenty of like World War II and Vietnam horror movies I would, well, I guess, I don't know if there are or not, but something
Yeah,
unique,
well, the
sort of
first
like
thing that
this.
comes to
What's that?
yeah, the first thing that comes, and yes, something has come. That's a good question. I just thought of something. You know, a lot of times we're seeing a lot of TV shows and some movies about these wars in Africa in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Some of them were revolutions. Sometimes they're the Africans going nuts, like massacring each other and
Uh-huh.
all of it. I think it would be cool to have a horror movie with some type of go back to African history and find some god or spirit or something that was an actual thing that
Yeah.
nobody believes in now, that they all believed in, you know, like 1,000 years ago or 500 years ago, and have that thing go on kind of a rampage, and people are trying to figure
That's
out.
an awesome idea. That could be like cool imagery too, with tribal people and demons and yeah, yeah, that sounds awesome. So
I just read this.
what would you give this movie out of 10? Did you like it?
Oh, out of 10? Oh, I definitely liked it. I was thinking I would give it 4 out of 5, so I guess I would give it a 7 or 8. It was
Yeah.
really good. I was really surprised. It was a good. It was. It wasn't exactly like an Alfred Hitchcock movie, but it was. I mean, it really held together. It had a good plot. It carried you through. It was very interesting.
Yeah, yeah. I thought the same thing. I would also give it a 8 out of 10. Uh, I'd say it was like better than normal. It didn't blow me away on like any like it didn't knock me out of my seat, but it definitely gave me like some good chills, and it was sort
Yeah.
of a lot to think about too.
Right. Exactly. Same here.
All right. Well, I'm going to wrap this up and stop recording. Are there any final thoughts that you have or anything, Dad?
No, I think we covered everything. I was flipping through my notes. Some of it reminded me of the X Files a little bit too.
Oh, it was like an X-Files episode. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, I thought it was great. That was a good suggestion.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I'm
Well,
invited back, if I'm invited back, you'll have to suggest another movie.
I will. I'll see if I can work you into the schedule. It's going to be tough with.
Okay, I know. I don't want to. I don't. I know there's people waiting.
So far, I've got two more people lined up. One of which is Patrick, and the other is Leela. So
Well, I'm next after that because this is fun.
excellent, excellent. All right, Dad. I'm going to stop recording.